Tell us a little bit about what attracted you to In the Next Room.
It's such an unusual thing, you know, to write a play about vibrators. Hysteria was such a spread illness in the 19th century, and that it was actually cured by vibrators. When I mention that to people who have nothing to do with the play, they are shocked by it. And also that the vibrator was considered just a medical instrument. You know, so there's this kind of wonderful innocence about it. The story is happening in Dr. Givings and Mrs. Givings' house. Dr. Giving is also a scientist who is an admirer of Edison, and he treats women's hysteria by a vibrator, electrical vibrator. But he's hiding everything. All his work is really hidden from Mrs. Givings. So the house is separated into two rooms. One is the operating theater, which is the place where he treats his patients, and then the other room is the living room. And the life is happening separately. Actually, the marriage is such that they spend very little time together. So the life is really divided between them, and what the play is really about is about trying to find connection. We have this character of Mrs. Giving who is insatiably curious and causes a lot of troubles. The curiosity causes troubles when we are living in a world where conventions are the norm.
For the Wilma's production of In the Next Room, you're dramatically rearranging the audience-stage relationship. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you did that?
This is the first time in 14 years that we have done it. Basically, we are taking the stage and covering all the first 5 rows and putting the audience on the other side of the theater so that we are actually creating a salon setting. So the play is going to be happening in the middle of the audience. And the reason for that is because I want to create a feeling that the audience is almost like looking through the window into the space, and it's kind of almost voyeurism, looking at what's happening, you know, the kind of a window into the 19th century.
Who is Dr. Givings, and what's his relationship with his wife?
Well, Dr. Givings, to begin with, comes from sort of a socially progressive family. His father was a famous abolitionist. He finds his wife to be very exciting, very much the opposite of him. I think she's somebody who can be impulsive, whereas he's very methodical, a scientist, pragmatic, thinks before he speaks, and so chooses his words, I think, very carefully. But in a way, I think opposites kind of attract here. Now, I think the downside to that is that he can sometimes miss things with his wife.
Who is Catherine Givings?
What I love about her is her self-described insatiable curiosity. And I think it makes sense that she's married to a doctor, someone who's also interested in solving problems. When we find the Givingses, we see that on the surface they're a very happy household. And I think they are in many ways, but underneath that there are some growing cracks and tension that we see exposed as the circumstances of the play develop. I think they are very much in love, and yet in some ways have never really been intimate with one another. And I think Catherine feels a bit misunderstood or not seen by her husband because he is very interested in his work.
This is the third Sarah Ruhl play that the Wilma has produced and the second that you've directed. What is it that keeps drawing you back to her work?
I think she's one of the most original writers. She just has beautiful, funny, exotic, you know, surprising stories. She's very imaginative. And of course, I love her language. You know, she was a poet first before she started writing plays, and you can track that down. You know, her language is just very succinct, precise, and underneath is a well of emotions that you can discover as a director. It's a great stuff to kind of put your hands into it.